So this week I'm recreating this, Jane Austen's favourite comfort food of all, but I'm also going to be cooking the food that she talks about the most in all of her books. Dear reader, yeah, my Bridgerton impression is bad. And yes, I'm pandering again. So Bridgerton's coming back to our screens. Everyone's getting for some more Regency drama, and it seems only fitting to find out a little bit more that the woman who arguably created the whole Regency obsession, Jane Austen, and more importantly, what she ate. I don't need to say who Jane Austen was, do I? Jane Austen was a celebrated 18th century writer who wrote classic books like Pride and Prejudice, Emma, Mansfield Park. She talks a lot about food in her personal letters, telling friends and family about meals she's had, from ox cheeks to black butter, whatever the hell that was. But this week I've been reading her own family's cookbook. A woman called Martha Lloyd, who Jane Austen referred to as a friend and sister in every circumstance. I'm gonna do less of the posh voice, I promise. She kept a collection of the family favourite recipes as part of the household book while she spent some time living with the Austen family, which she eventually married into. The book gives us a fantastic insight into the kinds of food the Austen family favoured and what they were producing from their kitchen garden. I'm going to start off by recreating one of the most popular foods that Jane Austen writes about in her books, and this is called white soup. So Jane Austen mentions white soup 4 times in her novels. So white soup was quite a popular and fashionable dish in the late 18th, early 19th century. It was often served at quite elaborate dinners and social events. And in Jane Austen's novels, white soup is often used to convey aspects of social class, etiquette, social norms. And since it required expensive ingredients and quite skilled preparation, serving white soup kind of indicated the host's wealth and opulence to guests. And as it happens, Martha Lloyd includes a recipe for white soup in the Austen household cookbook. So earlier today, I roasted up some veal to a nice golden colour with some vegetables, covered it with water, simmered it for 5 hours, and now I have lovely veal stock. I find the next bit of the recipe a little bit controversial. Martha Lloyd tells us to add to our stock the yolks of 4 eggs boiled hard and pounded very fine. Crushed egg yolks in a soup, okay. There are lots of different kinds of recipes for white soup of the period. You see lots of versions that include things like mutton, macaroni, bacon, and any number of ingredients to really get you in the mood for a dance. So we've got our 4 egg yolks boiled hard and pounded very fine. This just screams opulence. Treading the boundary between powder and paste into our stock. So now that we've got some lovely swampy egg in our veal stock, Martha Lloyd now asks you to add 2 ounces of sweet almonds pounded. A cautionary tale if you ever want to try Martha Lloyd's recipe yourself. The few bits of egg yolk that didn't break up and separate have now clumped together and cooked. So I've now got clumps of cooked egg yolk in my soup, which I'm not stoked about. The last thing Martha Lloyd asks you to do is pour into it enough cream to make of it a good colour. So we're going for a white soup, pale as can be. As far as looks go, white soup isn't much to look at. But if nothing else, Jane Austen tells us to not invest in appearances, so there we go. I don't get it. There's a really nice flavour in here, but that's entirely because we've got a lovely veal stock and cream. The difficulty is the little flecks of almond or whatever it is. It just leaves a grainy texture in the mouth. Not very good. This would not get me in the mood for dancing, and it definitely wouldn't make me want to get up and try and find a suitor. Next. So now we've tried the food that Jane Austen references more than any other food in all of her books. I really want to try out the food that her nearest and dearest said was her absolute favourite in the entire world, and that's toasted cheese, of which the first step is grating cheese. So technically, we don't know by her own hand what Jane Austen's favourite food was. She wrote a lot in her letters about food that she'd enjoyed at various pubs and inns and balls throughout the years, but she never writes in a letter, FYI, this is what my death row meal might be. But there are a few clues that were left behind that give us a sense that toasted cheese was her favourite. So Jane Austen's brother-in-law, and at one point a potential suitor apparently, he made a point of ordering some toasted cheese for supper in order to please her. She also writes about toasted cheese in Mansfield Park. So to make this a toasted cheese worthy of Jane Austen, we need to add a couple of things to it. So Martha Lloyd tells us to add to the grated cheese 1 egg, and also a teaspoonful of mustard. Given we weren't best mates with a friend to this point, I think it's probably English mustard, and also a little butter, which probably would be better to melt it, but who wants to do that? Mix it together. And the serving suggestions simply say to send it up on toast. So into the grill they go. So as well as Jane Austen's favourite comfort food, I also really want to try what was supposed to be her favourite drink. And according to accounts, that was honey mead. This would make sense, as Jane Austen's sister Cassandra apparently kept bees on their estate. And Martha Lloyd's recipe book that these recipes came from also includes a recipe to make your own mead. The brewing process that Martha Lloyd outlines takes about 12 months. I don't have that, so I've cheated. I also don't own my own hive, so there are a number of obstacles that we've had to overcome here, but we've done it together. After a few minutes on the grill, we have toasted cheese, Jane Austen style. All right, toasted cheese time. That is a fantastic choice for comfort food. I don't think the egg is necessary. This with just an egg beaten in, it's a little bit spongy, but that hit of mustard going through it is really elevating it. I also really want to try the honey mead. Do you know, I wasn't expecting it to taste like that. It kind of reminds me when I've gone to a fancy restaurant and they're serving dessert wine. It is very sweet, but it's really refreshing. I'm gonna demolish this, the whole thing. So there are a couple of reasons why I love this. The first is that although there's no guidance around what cheese to use in the recipe book, we know that Jane Austen spent some time growing up around Somerset, so that's prime territory for cheddar, which is just really tasty. But the main reason I love this is it's just completely without pretense. For a woman who so eloquently dissected the upper classes and their balls and their banquets, here is just some really delicious and simple food intended for enjoyment behind closed doors. Exactly as all good comfort food should be, in my case anyway. I'm gonna eat the rest of this now, so bye-bye.